Very good. So, welcome to the first full day of this retreat. There's a lot of meditation to do today, and a lot of just getting used to the place and seeing how you can best make use of it. Yesterday, I gave a talk about how the meditation works, learning how to relax to the max, learning how to just let this mind slowly just grow in its peace and in its energy. Okay, there's still some more people outside. By the door, any more people coming in? Okay, good, excellent. So, okay. Yeah. Gonna close the door? Okay. Good. And also, when I came in here this morning and also returned here just at 8:20 or something, I was very impressed that when you were having your lunch or your breakfast, you were all nice and quiet. And that really helps to develop this peaceful atmosphere on this short retreat. As we are peaceful, that is an opportunity for the mind to relax. As I said the other day with a glass of water, to be able to put the glass of water down and just allow it to be still. One of the ways that is you have good instructions, but also to have inspiration. And inspiration is one of those beautiful causes of meditation success. I remember several times when a monk like Ajahn Chah was around, that he would give a talk, and sometimes, not all the time, sometimes he would really say something very deep, very profound, and you get so inspired that um, it was so easy to meditate afterwards. As if you didn't need to think about anything, plan anything. You had trust that that monk knew exactly what he was doing and saying. And so you trusted him enough just to sit there and just let the mind become still, peaceful, and powerful. I know that many of us, we've heard about meditation before, and we've had all these instructions on how to do the meditation. But instead of having instructions what to do, you'll probably hear from me what not to do. In other words, it's learning how to get out of the way and let that meditation actually happen. And this is why sometimes Ajahn Chah would say some of these instructions, and they weren't really instructions. They were just learning how to relax and have trust. When you relax, after a while, the mind energizes, becomes really alert and very happy. Because inspiration, that leads to this sense of inner joy, where you're not looking to be excited by things on the outside. You're not needing to go on the internet and look at the next TikTok or Facebook or whatever else just to entertain yourself. The silence, the peace inside your own mind is happy enough. In fact, it's more happy. Sometimes people wonder, why do you spend a weekend on a meditation retreat when you go back to work on Monday afternoon or rather Tuesday, and people ask you, you haven't been around for the weekend. Where did you go? And you said, oh, we went to do a meditation retreat. Really, what did you do? Nothing. Or could you, see some entertainment? No. Did you manage to have beautiful food? No. Did you have a nice rest? No, I had to get up early in the morning and go to bed late at night. What did you do that for? And then you smile back at them. Oh, there's so many wonderful stories about the story of this executive from over in Sydney. Came all the way to Perth, arrived very late on a Friday night. We started the retreats there on Friday evening. She only came at midnight on Friday or something. Saturday morning, she was really tired. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, she started to kind of wake up. And then soon, by the end of the retreat, she was really happy. So happy that when she went back to work on the following Monday after a 9 days retreat in Sydney, her boss, she sent me the email afterwards, her boss asked her, what drug has Ajahn Brahm been giving you over the retreat? You're really so much happier. Why? And the boss said, I don't care what drug it is, but make sure you bring something to me next time after you go there. They could actually see that there was an increase of energy and happiness and joy. Even that sometimes there was this one man who always wanted to come on just a small retreat on the weekend. And his wife said, go on a retreat on the weekend? Who's going to look after the kids, do all the housework, do all the shopping? So both working people with kids. No, you can't go. And he was a very determined man, but very kind too. So if his wife said he couldn't go, he didn't go. The next time there's a weekend retreat, wife, can I go on the retreat? It's a lovely weekend retreat. No, my mum's coming this weekend. The kids have to go to sport. We've got extra. You got to clean out the shed. Remember, you promised to do that. No, you can't go. And another time, the next retreat. Can I go on the retreat? It's a weekend retreat. And by this time, the wife, this is the true story, the wife was just so frustrated with her husband that she said, okay, you go on your stupid retreat. Leave me to do all the work here and look after the kids. He took that as a yes and went to the retreat. You said I could. But then what happened? Just a weekend retreat. When he went home on a Sunday evening, he was such an improved husband that when it came time for the next retreat, he didn't even need to ask. She booked the retreat place for him and sent him, off you go. She saw the benefits, the peace, the joy, the happiness. And it's like stories like that which kind of can inspire us. It does work. Sometimes you may be too close to your own meditation, so you can't really see the benefits. You see some of them, but not really fully. But once you go home on a Monday afternoon, check with the people you live with, and they will probably tell you, "What have you been doing? What?" We can't say what drugs has Ajahn Brahm been giving you in the Novotel Hotel. What have you been doing? Because it does actually make a lot of difference to your sense of peace and happiness and joy, and your clarity of mind as well. And because of that, you find, yes, you do make progress. There was a time when I'd been meditating for a couple of years as a student, had some good experiences. But as a student, there's so many other things you have to do in life. So my meditation started to get less and less time. But then I remember just having a cup of coffee in some shop with a French guy. And we're just talking about all sorts of things. And the Frenchman was saying that he meditates as well. And I said, well, yeah, I used to. This is me, okay? I said, yeah, I used to. I don't do so much these days. Why not? I said, well, it's ordinary. And he said, no, it's not. And he said, if you have a look at your mind after you've meditated, compare it to what it was like when it began, you'll notice there's a great difference there. Even with what you think is ordinary meditation, is still much better than if you hadn't meditated at all. And it's from there that I got into the habit. At the end of each meditation, before I open my eyes, I just look at my body and my mind and see what changes I can discern from when I started meditating until I come out of meditation. And when I saw that, I saw there was always a positive change in the meditation. It wasn't always very, very deep, but it was certainly positive. I was gaining so much out of a half an hour of just ordinary meditation. And that was what inspired me. You know that sometimes you may have a nice deep meditation and think, yeah, I can do it now. And the next meditation is awful. That's how you perceive it, but it's not. And to get that understanding what's happening, that's why I developed the simile of the migrant. Once upon a time, there was a migrant who came with his family to Australia from a very, very poor, difficult country in the world. Even though the country was having a lot of political trouble, he was a doctor. And so when he came to Australia, he thought he would just get a job in the hospital and carry on his career. But there in Australia, the system was such that all of the qualifications he gained overseas were not recognized in Australia. It's a weird way of doing things, but if I was a meditation teacher in some places in the United States, you need to have special qualifications. I haven't got those qualifications. I've been a monk for so long. And so the point is, I would never be able to teach a meditation retreat in some places in the United States. I'm not qualified. That even happened to this psychiatrist. He was a very well-known psychiatrist in the United States. And some of the other psychiatrists invited him over to Australia to teach for a year. And as soon as he arrived, he was told, no, he can't teach yet. He's not qualified. But he said, it's a simple test you have to do. Just here's a couple of books here. Read them, learn them. We'll give you a small test on them afterwards. And if you pass, then you can be a psychiatrist in Australia for a year. And then he took one of those books. This is what I've got to study. He said, yes. Whose name is on the bottom? Who's the author? That's me. But he still had to study the test, even though he wrote the book. But anyway, this poor guy, he was a doctor before. Now he got a job on a building site. He had to work so hard. And when he went home after the first day, his wife asked, how much did you earn today? He said, nothing. I worked really hard and they didn't pay me anything. He went on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, still hadn't earned anything. On a Thursday, he worked really hard, still didn't get any paycheck. He said, I don't want to work in Australia. They just exploit migrants. It's really unfair. So his wife said, well, look, you've got nothing else to do today. Might as well go to work on Friday as well. So off he went to work on Friday. He didn't work hard at all on Friday. But then, middle of the day, his boss gave him a big paycheck. And when he went home, he was very happy. And he told his wife, darling, I finally understood how it works in Australia. From now on, I'm only going to go to work on Friday. On payday. But of course, you all know that payday is not paying you for what you've done on that day, it's paying you for all the work you've done in those days before as well. And that's just like with meditation. Payday is when you're sitting there, it's so easy and peaceful and lovely, having a wonderful time. And you think, now I know how to do it. Now I'm going to get payday every time I close my eyes and meditate. You may not get payday, but you still get a lot of happiness and joy. Maybe not the big paychecks. And for those of you who don't know what payday is, you never experienced a blissful, beautiful meditation, I always encourage you to say, it's coming. The check is in the mail. So it gives you confidence that you meditate and meditate and meditate, and soon you get the paycheck. And it's worth it. So this is where we learn about how our mind works. And as I mentioning yesterday, a lot of time it's just learning how to do very little at all and be content and not negative. Because if you feel you're tired, if you feel you're restless, if you feel nothing's happening, what do you do then? You start to mess around and put some effort in, and then you start to stop the process of meditation and stillness. It's a weird thing. When the first you meditate, you put forth effort, you try, you're very motivated, you try this, you try that, and you find it doesn't work. I mentioned in previous talks here that I always thought that restlessness, you could overcome restlessness by dragging your mind back onto my object of meditation was the breathing. Drag it back onto the breathing, but then it would wander off again. Keep bringing it back onto the breath, and then wander off again. Keep bringing it back. Now, some of you might do that for, a couple of days. But I did that for quite a few years. I was so stupid it never worked. And then after a while, I asked myself, instead of just putting forth effort, why? Why won't my mind stay with my breath? Shouldn't be a hard thing to do. It's a simple thing. I've got everything. I don't have to do anything else. Why won't it stay? And then you discover the reason why that mind would not stay with the breath was because I had a bad relationship with my breath. I was trying to control it, train it, tell it off when it wandered away. That is not the way to express your loving kindness to anything. So I changed my attitude. I said, mind if you want to wander off anywhere, fine by me, just let me know when you come back. Just like a person has a pet bird in a cage, any type of bird. If you keep the cage door closed, then that bird will get frustrated. And after a while, even no matter how careful you are, you will leave that door of the cage open, and the bird will fly away and never come back. That's not how to keep the bird as a friend, as a pet, as a loved animal. Instead, you leave the cage door open all the time. But you make sure that in that cage there's the most delicious food, the most lovely baked beans. Did you have baked beans up here this morning? Oh, good. I made the right choice because I went downstairs to the to the restaurant downstairs. There's some lovely beans there. So, did you have the beautiful noodles? Excellent. Did you enjoy them? Are you going to go there tomorrow? Do I have to force you to go there tomorrow? When it comes down for breakfast, are you just going to go and get the noodles? Is that hard work? Of course it's not, because it's something you really like. And that's the same if you keep the bird in a cage with the door open. There's such beautiful food there, such sweet water to drink, and such a lovely perch to sit on. Then if that bird does fly away, it's only for a short time, as it misses its cage. It's joyful and pleasant. And that's actually the reason why we become restless. When you're watching your breathing, say, there's always this person in the background saying, mind, you stay there. Don't you go anywhere. I want you to stick with the breath. You wandered off too many times. That's not the way to treat the breath or the mind. So we have a kindness instead. Make sure it's pleasant. You know, when I use the simile of a bird as a pet, do you know why at night time, when birds who are not in the cage, where they go to sleep at night? It's up in the trees. Even as a young kid, I sometimes wondered, how do birds sleep in the trees? Do they have a little mattress and a pillow and a blanket if it's cold? They just lay down. I said, no, they just sit on the tree. Sit on a tree and go to sleep. If I sat on the tree and fell asleep, I'd wake up on the ground with a broken neck. So what if it's very windy? You know, they have storms. If there's a big storm in the forest, do those birds, have to keep awake all night because they're afraid of falling off? And the opposite is true. Because when a bird roosts on a tree with its little feet, or whatever you call them, the more relaxed it gets, the more that those feet close up. If it gets really relaxed, it holds on to the branches automatically, very tightly. The more relaxed that bird is, the more stable it is. That was counterintuitive to me. If I was sitting on a branch of a tree and it started swaying, I'd tense up. That's why you'd fall off. But for a bird, the more relaxed you are, the more stable your hold on the branch actually is. So when they wake up in the morning, they have to put effort to open up their claws and fly off. Their natural state, closed claws, and very stable. And I thought it's a beautiful simile for meditation, because you do find the more effort you put in, the more even fear, then the more that you are unstable. Learn how to let go and discover that the body becomes stable. That's one of the other things which you learn. First time these things happen, it's quite surprising. The other opposite to restlessness, the sloth and torpor, the tiredness. I used to fight that a lot as well, but it never worked, whatever I did, until I decided not to do anything. I've figured out that if you feel sleepy during meditation and you fall asleep, that's not against the 5 precepts. There was no Vinaya rule in the 227 precepts that if you fall asleep, bad karma. Not at all. So I decided, just if you're sleepy, there's causes for that, so just be sleepy. But then what happens is you still have some mindfulness, enough mindfulness that you kind of know you're sleepy. And then that mindfulness, when you don't fight anything, gets stronger. Then you get to the point, when I was sleepy, you'd always sort of, be slumped over. But then I was mindful enough, and the body straightened up all by itself. And that was freaky, because I was clear enough. I never ordered that. I never did that. I never gave the command, straighten up. It happened all by itself. And that was weird. Even once when I used to meditate as a student, sometimes my legs would go to sleep and they'd go numb. And I would always be moving it. Should I move it now? And I'd move it and the blood would come back or whatever, and it would be back to normal. But I got frustrated by that. So why am I always being disturbed when my feelings in my legs go numb? So one day, just to be rebellious, I was sitting there, my legs went numb, and I said, I don't care what happens afterwards, even if they get so numb that no blood is going through, and they will get gangrene, and after I come out of meditation, I'd have to chop my legs off. I don't mind. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to carry on meditating. And then I didn't move anything at all. And then the numbness disappeared all by itself. Again, it was a crazy thing. I always thought if I wanted to heal something or get rid of something, I'd have to do something. That wasn't the case. When you just trust your body, it knows what to do, and it does it, not me. It's the same with some of the other more deeper states of meditation. Sometimes you think that you're not breathing anymore. And many of you get scared. I'm not breathing. If I don't breathe, I'm going to die. I've been teaching meditation for so many years. I even taught meditation when I was a school teacher to 650 kids in the morning assembly. In all those years, I've been teaching meditation. When I did that, that was about 1971 or something, 72, teaching 650 kids in a high school. And all those years, never once has anybody died on my meditation retreats. Never. I've got 100% safety record. And that's over almost 50 years now since we first started teaching meditation. That's a pretty good record. So you don't have to be afraid at all. If you don't stop breathing, don't worry about it. Just carry on. When the body wants to breathe, it will breathe. If it thinks it doesn't need to, it won't. And you'll be fine. Guaranteed. And people say, well, look, what if it doesn't work and I do die? If you do die, you can come and haunt me. You can come to my room. My room is, what's it, 2015? That's the room which we're in. Yeah, that's my room here. So you can come to that room as a ghost. Only ghosts can come in. I say, Ajahn Brahm, you said I wouldn't die. You did. Don't go to 2015, you go to 2011. Go and scare Gerald. No, you won't die. So you don't have to be afraid. Just trust your body. It knows what to do and how to do it. And if you relax and don't tense up, you get healthier and healthier and healthier. So that means you can let go. And after a while, your mind gets very, very beautiful and peaceful. It reminded me of one of those stories which you read about in the suttas. And this was where the Buddha was walking with his attendant Ananda, and they saw a monk just on the edge of the forest sitting meditation. Perfect posture. And he wasn't moving at all. And he was still breathing. And Ananda thought, that's a really good monk. But the Buddha looked at him and said, I'm worried about him. Then they went deeper into the forest, and there was another monk sitting in the middle of the forest, really having a lot of sloth and torpor, nodding this way and nodding that way. And the Buddha smiled. I'm not worried about him. This is in Theravada, not Zen teachings. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, this doesn't make sense. Is this like typo when somebody wrote out this or printed out these sutras? This can't be true. There's a monk, perfect posture, and the Buddha was worried about him. And another monk, really sleepy, and the Buddha was not worried about him at all. That first monk was what we call a control freak. Doesn't matter how tired you are, you can sit up, close your eyes and have a perfect posture, worried what other people are going to think about you if you start nodding, especially if it's the Buddha watching you. The second monk, he was in the middle of the forest, further away from people, didn't really worry what people thought of him, and he was sleepy. He was learning how to let go. And I've seen that too many times in my life as a monk. Some monks or some nuns, they try to be control freaks of their own body and mind. They can impress other people, have beautiful postures, but inside, when you start talking to them, you can see just they're not very pleasant people to be with. They control themselves, they'll try and control you too. So that's one of the reasons why the Buddha realized that that second monk who was nodding, it was only a matter of time before that sleepiness and tiredness would disappear, and the mind would become so peaceful and joyful. As it happened, he became one more of the enlightened beings. And this is quite personal for me, because one of my fellow monks, which I spent a rains retreat once over in Thailand, that he always had a perfect posture. Never once did I see him just nod. He could sit for hours. And all the other monks, we all thought this French monk was so close to enlightenment. And then I found I was in some other monastery somewhere, and he disrobed. We were good friends. He gave me his alms bowl, which I still have over in Perth. And so we talked, why did you disrobe? And he said, many times when we were meditating together, he'd open his eyes and see Ajahn Brahm with his head almost on the floor. And he was jealous. He said, I wish I could do that. And he was being honest to himself. He was such a control freak. He never allowed himself to be sleepy. And that was so unpleasant for him. He lasted 4 years. I don't know how he could manage that. That was just no happiness and joy much at all. But he did teach me a good lesson. Because later on in life, if you're sleepy, there's a cause for it. Don't waste the little energy you have left fighting that cause. Instead, understand it. When you understand it, you can just let that sleepiness be, not fighting it. And after a while, the energy comes back and you straighten up and you get so peaceful. In the old times, if I was sleepy, I would fight it. Sometimes I would beat the sleepiness, the sloth and torpor. If I beat the sloth and torpor, you know what I felt next? Restlessness. Come on, I can't be sleepy. And then I couldn't stop thinking. So I calmed my thinking down. Calm down, calm down. And then I was on the floor again. Do many of you understand that? Is that what you do? So instead, just be sleepy. And after a while, just content being sleepy. Happy with your head down here somewhere. And then the time will come, guaranteed, as long as you don't interfere with the process, you straighten up. And you've got energy, but you've got no restlessness. It's beautiful. At last, you're peaceful, energized, clear, no sleepiness at all. And then that's where you can really go into some beautiful, delightful meditation. That's when, if you want to watch your breathing or whatever you're watching, it's so easy to do. What's difficult about watching your breathing? I'll show you how easy it is. Close your eyes now and watch 3 breaths. Then open your eyes. Was that hard? Of course it wasn't hard, it's easy. So now close your eyes and watch 3,000 breaths. It's just a psychological block, that's all, for doing something like watching your breathing. So in order to overcome that psychological block, first of all, allow sleepiness to be. And when it disappears by itself, it's anicca, it will pass. When it does pass, when you're watching your breathing, don't worry about the past or the future. Just sometimes people say, Buddhist monks, we only just adopt latest fashions in mindfulness or present moment awareness. But that's been part of Buddhism since the very beginning. And the Bhaddekaratta Sutras always talks about let the past go, no future, and just put the attention in this moment right now. And that's not a hard thing to do. As long as you are kind to the present moment. Many people find it easy to focus and concentrate. Easiest thing in the world. If you're watching a movie, if you're watching the football match, if you're watching something you really like, say if you're watching a movie, I don't know what are the favorite movies right now. Not Harry Potter anymore. That's a long time ago. What's the favorite? If you wanted to watch a movie this afternoon, what would you watch? Who? Avatar. Okay. Suppose you were watching Avatar. Would you have to concentrate? Would your mind be restless? Would your mind go to sleep? It's easy to watch something you like. And it's also not just easy to watch something you like. I remember some of the women who got husbands who like something like cricket. Cricket goes on for hours. And sometimes they tell their husband, dinner's ready. He doesn't say anything. He is not ignoring you. He just doesn't hear you. Or if you're watching one of your favorite movies or videos or whatever, again, your husband says, is the dinner ready yet? You don't hear them. You filtered it out. All you're doing is watching the thing you really, really like. If you're watching your breathing, it's very, very beautiful. And someone rings a gong, it's time for lunch. You don't even hear the bell. You're enjoying yourself so much. It's the joy which allows the mind to settle in deep meditation. For those of you who've listened to me do the guided meditations of the Friday night in Perth, you may often notice that I start with a relaxing of the body. And then once that body is relaxed, I suggest to everybody, now can you experience the delightful feeling of relaxation? That is why people have massages, why they can soak in a hot tub, why they can go to a beach on a sunny resort, sit on a recliner and just relax to the max. Is that unpleasant? There's a delight there. There's a pleasure, the delight, the pleasure of physical relaxation. One of the things which I noticed was that when you are aware and pay attention to that delight of relaxation, the relaxation goes deeper. You become more relaxed simply by paying attention to the benefit of relaxation, the physical pleasure of it. You can try that. And then we do exactly the same when we are meditating on, say, something like the breathing. When the delight happens to appear to you, oh, just watching a beautiful breath, this is nice. And another beautiful breath, this is all I need to do, totally stress-free. No one is asking me to achieve anything or get anything done. I've got no work in my outbox, no work in my inbox, that's the past and the future. I've got nothing to do in the whole world except just watch one breath. So easy. And you can notice the delight, the joy, the pleasure of simplicity and quietness. Then afterwards, that silence, that peace, that joy goes even deeper. Noticing the pleasure of meditation is important to take the meditation deeper. When you notice the pleasure, of course, you don't want to go anywhere. Your mind is satisfied. And the pleasure gets more and more and more. And that surprises you sometimes. Especially when a monk starts talking about pleasure. I didn't think pleasure was allowed for monks and nuns. One of the experiences I always remember the first trip when I came to Singapore, came to Hong Kong, staying in that temple. What was it called again? Yeah. Staying in that temple, there was a Mahayana nun who was doing a lot of the work there. And at the end of that first retreat I taught, she came to thank me. He said, Ajahn Brahm, you won't realize just what a great benefit you've been to me. I thought, has she got enlightened or something? And she said, before you came, I was not allowed to smile. They thought, nuns, you're supposed to be strict. Don't smile. Wipe that happiness off your face. You're supposed to be suffering. And then I came with a big smile on my face all the time. And as a result of that, she said, thank you. From now on, I'm allowed to smile. And I thought it was a funny story, but it's also a bit sad as well. When you're meditating, or I should actually say that when I first became a monk, I saw a lot of friends I met in Buddhist temples. And when I told them I'm going to Thailand to become a monk, many of them said, oh, yeah, I've seen many people like you. You won't last. That was 48 years ago. I think I did last. But I asked them afterwards, why did you say that I wouldn't last? And they said, because you were too happy. And that really stunned me. They thought you have to be miserable to become a monk or nun. It's kind of not understanding the Buddha's teachings at all. So when you are happy, that happiness, if it's the happiness of that sixth sense, the mind, that is not to be afraid of at all. This is the Buddha saying in the Arana Vibhanga Sutta, one of my favorite suttas. Please be afraid of the happy. No, it does actually say this in that sutta, but it says it more clearly in the Pasadika Sutta, Digha Nikaya. And that is where the Buddha said to this monk, if anybody tells you, you monks, do you enjoy any sense pleasures? And you say, depends what the sense pleasures are. If it's about the pleasures of the five senses, no, we consider that as dangerous. But for sixth sense pleasure, yes. And the word is, the Buddha actually said, we indulge in the pleasure of the sixth sense of the mind. Indulge in it. And straight away, they said, well, if you indulge in the pleasures of the sixth sense, isn't that dangerous? I said, no. If you indulge in the pleasure of the sixth sense, there's only four possibilities, four results of indulging in the pleasure of the sixth sense, the pleasures of the mind. The result of indulging in the pleasures of the sixth sense, the mind, is stream winning, once returning, non-returning, or full enlightenment. That's what you're supposed to be doing. That's in the Pasadika Sutta. That's why I quote it often. Indulging in the pleasures of the sixth sense of mind is basically the pleasures of deep meditation. So once those pleasures come up, please indulge. Enjoy it to the max, because the mind is relaxed to the max. So because of that, that's why the happiness of meditation should be cultivated. Is that difficult to do? The pleasures of the sixth sense? And there's all these lovely stories about this pleasure of the sixth sense, the pleasure of the mind, the deep meditations. Oh, you have to be meditating for years to get anything like that. That's not how it works. Sometimes I've told people, adapting a story which the Buddha said, like he said, most people, they wander up and down the banks of a stream, trying to find a way to cross that stream, looking for a bridge or a ferry or some cross-harbor tunnel or something to cross to the other side. They wander up and down for their lifetimes, never realizing, this is my adaptation, if you just turn around 90 degrees, perpendicular, you find that stream is very, very narrow, and you can just jump across it. You don't need a bridge. You don't need a ferry. You don't need a tunnel underneath. But when you go up and down, trying to find a way across, you're missing the point of a very simple way, learning how to let go, not to do anything, not to want anything. Then you find you go across very easily. Sometimes I say that one of the reasons why the breath meditation works is because the breath is still part of the body, but it's like a stepping stone in the middle of that stream. From all the things in the world, you just go to the breath, and from the breath to the mind. So simple. And then you're across the stream, at least to the other side, and understand what it's like to be free of the body and have these deep meditations. Am I not just amplifying, because just getting into deep meditation is not enlightenment yet, but it's so close. This is one of the great things when you read what the Buddha said. And it's always, even said it so many times, gives me goosebumps. Every time, any time you've experienced one of those real first jhanas, it is the first jhana. The way the Buddha described it, he called it Nekama Sukha, the joy, the bliss of being free from your body and the five senses. He also called it Sambodhi Sukha. When I saw that word written down, authentic, many times by the Buddha, described the experience of the first jhana as Sambodhi Sukha. That word means enlightenment happiness. And that really just kind of blew your mind. If you want to find out what enlightenment is as an experience, actually feel it legitimately, and even just experience the first jhana. Buddha called it Sambodhi Sukha. And that's really kind of freaky. And that's kind of even emphasized in one of the, there's no Sri Lankans here today. Those Sri Lankans are really devout Buddhists. And often that they forget some of their old heritage. The first teachings of the Buddha ever taught in Sri Lanka was the Hathipadopama Sutta, the simile of the elephant's footprint. Somebody trying to find a big elephant by following its footprints. And the Buddha used that simile. If you want to find a Buddha, what actually is a Buddha, how a Buddha feels, then find out those four jhanas. They're the footprints of the Buddha. Hathipadopama Sutta. And that's also one of the reasons why. How many of you have been on pilgrimage to the four Buddhist holy sites? One of, that's all, two. Where did you go? That's not the real holy sites of the Buddha. And it's such a long way to go, all the way to India. You got to get your vaccinations and passports and visas. Oh, it takes a long while to get even from these. Now they've got an airport in Gaya or Bodh Gaya. In the old days, it took such a long time to get in these buses, and they're really, really slow and dangerous. And there was no toilets on the way. You had to go behind a bush to go to the toilet, whatever you needed to do. Because it was India, much of the time you had to go to the toilet. More often, you'd never go to the toilet in Hong Kong. And I say to people these days, you don't need to go to India to visit the holy sites of the Buddha. The four holy sites of the Buddha, to actually feel what the Buddha felt. First jhana, second jhana, third jhana, and the fourth jhana. That's legitimate to say that. So if this weekend retreat is an invitation for a pilgrimage to the four Buddhist holy sites, where you don't need a visa or a passport, just a meditation cushion. Have some silence and see what happens. This is like real experiential Buddhism. So I hope that kind of inspires you. And if it does, then see what happens. The difficulty which I face as a teacher when I teach like this is creating too much craving in each one of you. I want jhanas. I want deep meditation. I want to bliss out. And of course you do. But that's not the way to reach those states. If you want to experience those states, number one, you can. How many of you here have deliberately murdered your mother or your father in this lifetime? I don't think there's anyone here. Is that a good assumption? It's only people who patricides or matricides are people who cannot get jhanas or cannot get enlightened. So if you haven't done any of those things, you can get deep meditations. Whether you will or not, that's up to your wisdom. How you can learn how to let go and to be at peace. If you want the jhanas, don't want the results, want the experience, want the cause. If you want to get a degree from university, and I've seen this, I've seen so many photographs. If you want a degree for university, you've got to dress up in a weird costume with this silly hat on the top, and you go there on a certain day, and some famous person gives you this little scroll. And that's your degree. Is that all you need to do to get a degree? Just turn up at university in a funny suit? Of course not. It's what you do beforehand, the causes. And the causes are learning how to be content, easily satisfied, not proud or demanding in nature. That's one of the chants we do, a translation of the Metta Sutta. Be content and easily satisfied. You don't want anything. Not wanting anything means you become still. Because you become still, the mind just gets empowered. Because the mind gets empowered, it can just see so deeply into itself. It doesn't do anything. It just starts to get some bliss coming up. And that bliss leads all the way into the very, very deepest meditations. It is that simple. So this is why we learn this. And if you want to experience these deep meditations, remember the causes. If you want anything, want to establish the causes for deep meditation. Contentment. That's a trick. If you want contentment, you have to give up wanting. If you're easily satisfied, you give up wanting. Not proud. And a lot of proud means other people have got jhanas, why not me? I want it too. And if your best friend has got first jhana, I want second jhana. Not demanding in nature. You're just peaceful and happy just to be here. With that degree of peace and stillness and happiness, you're creating the causes for jhanas. And then just create the causes. One day those causes get so strong, it just happens. You don't do it. You get out of the way and let it happen. So there we go. That's the talk for this morning. I think it was the same talk as last night. It started off a different subject, but ended up the same. Now, is there any one or two questions just to end the talk, or just to go straight? I've got some interviews now in another 5 or 10 minutes. Any questions anyone would like? The best time to ask those questions would be in the evening. So we'd have the piece of paper for the questions. Is that good? Yeah. Okay. And it's a weird thing. This has happened so many times in so many retreats. Somebody writes a question, which is really important, good question. And then somebody else, without their knowledge, writes and asks the same question. Almost not word for word, but the same topic. And that means, and sometimes a third one asks the same question. What that means is when you have these questions and you ask them, I'll put them on a piece of paper and we can answer them together, it becomes far more efficient. I only have to give the answer once. But if it's on the interviews, the personal interviews, I give that answer, and the next person comes in, I have to give the answer again, and a couple of people later on, I give the same answer again. You'll find that when you're on a retreat together, there's a lot of synergy. Yes.
May I know that apart from deep meditation and death, is there any chance that we could see the nimitta light?
So
there are two possibilities.
Yes.
See the nimitta, deep meditation,
Yeah.
and dying.
Yeah.
Death. So how about dreaming or any other chance?
Dreaming. Sometimes when you dream, if you've done some deep meditation, sometimes you can dream of a nimitta. But if you do, that'll be the end of your sleep. It's too powerful, too joyful. That's happened to me enough times. Had some really nice meditations, and you go to sleep, and you're fast asleep, and you have sometimes really amazing dreams. I'll be more specific. I remember years and years ago, I dreamt of, like, it's going through a graveyard. I was never afraid of ghosts. I'm never scared of these things. And I saw all these little gravestones of some of the famous monks, which I've known in the past, who have now passed away. And I saw this little gravestone of one of my favorite monks, is Ajahn Tate. And when I saw his gravestone, it just burst into this beautiful color. It became this incandescent, beautiful color. And that was a nimitta. And that was it. My eyes were wide open and nothing else you could do. Middle of the night, and sat meditation, enjoyed myself. But if it's really a nimitta you dream of, you're awake now. It's too powerful for you to be sleepy. So you can, but especially if you're going to do a nimitta, to do it during the middle of the day rather than the night time. You need your sleep. Yes. Quite likely they will see it, but sometimes you're afraid of it. You move away from it. Sometimes the people who die won't know what it is. It's powerful, beautiful, and you're a bit scared. That's one of the reasons, by letting you know that such things exist and they're perfectly safe, that would actually help. If you see beautiful light, go for it, enjoy it. That's why sometimes if someone gets really sick and they're dying, sometimes their friends say, don't go towards the light, don't go towards the light, because they don't want to let their mother or father pass away. It's not very nice. Anyway, okay. It's okay for you for now? Okay. Any other questions? Please write them either on a piece of paper or we'll answer them this evening. And have a wonderful time. The lunch is at 11 o'clock or 11:30? 12 for you. Okay. Please excuse me because I'm on monastic time. What about your lunch? Okay, yeah, okay. So I'll be disappearing at, is it 11? Okay. But anyway, have a nice time. And if you don't have any lunch, have nimittas instead. They are on the menu sometime on this retreat. Thank you for listening. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so the interview room is just around the corner.